we've played around with our target areas and things like that, and adding that value, having those reviews, showing that we're superior product is what lands us those higher project values.
Welcome to the Base Coat Brainiac podcast. My name is Austin Hauser. I am Chief Brainiac over here at Base Coat Marketing. And if you own a painting business and you're listening in, you are in the right place. Now, today I have Zack Guthrie with Advantage Paint Services out of Buffalo, New York, to join our conversation. Zack was actually last year's winner of our annual PCA giveaway. So no, our 3-month of free marketing raffle is not just a marketing gimmick. It is in fact a genuine giveaway. So first of all, Zack, thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here, man. I'm glad we were able to make this work.
Definitely. And just to touch on that, yeah, I actually even asked that when I was told that I was the winner. I was like, is there more winners or is it just me? And when I was told it was me, I was extremely excited, and it's been great ever since.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see. Like, first of all, it was great seeing you in person in Colorado and seeing how far you've come. So let's just kind of break down where you started your company, and then we can kind of work our way up to where you're at today. Because, you know, you guys are aiming for some pretty big goals year-over-year growth-wise by like almost 100%. So I'm really excited to dive into what that looks like. But let's start. Take us back in time, man. How did you get into this industry? Why painting? How did you get started?
Yeah, definitely. So before I got into the industry, I was actually in sales and debt collections, more of like office-based jobs. And I ended up helping out a buddy of mine who owned a painting company just for some extra hours. This was a while back. And I really enjoyed it. I liked doing it. And the main thing with my entrepreneurial spirit, I saw the market share in this industry and it really stuck out to me. And I was like, this is what I want to get into.
Yeah, it's not a path that many people like just decide that, hey, I want to get into it. Usually they start small, right? And then they inch their way into it. So it sounds like you've took a
Definitely.
similar path there in that regard. Now, how'd you take the leap from working for somebody else as a painter or in their painting company to owning your own painting business?
So yeah, I will say, when I initially started with this buddy of mine, I was actually interested in possibly growing in the ranks with him, partnering with him. Um, and as I went on, I just more so sought out to just do it myself, and I figured I'd have a better outcome that way. And like you mentioned before, at first it was a lot of growing and a lot of starting up, but we're very happy that we went that direction.
So it's just you. You do not have a bit business partner at this time, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. What's really so like I find the business partner combo super interesting. So like I don't know how much you know about private equity, but there's the largest private equity firm, or at least they used to be, was Y Combinator out in California, and they had a rule. They would not invest in any company unless they had a business partner. And the reason is they've identified that most companies that scale, think about like Google, right? There's generally going to be two people at the helm, and it's because they can help support each other. The interesting part about that for me is most businesses that fail also have a business partner. And it's because you're getting into a marriage that is around money, right? Like business is about making money, and that can be stressful for most people. So I have yet to basically what I'm getting at is I think the vast majority of businesses that succeed are single owner businesses. Those that scale to the next level generally have a business partner. So I always just kind of find that a super interesting concept there. But yeah, so let's get back to you, Zack. So you started out working for somebody else. You decided to open up your own painting business. What did those early years look like? How long have you been in business for? What were some of the challenges that you've stumbled across along the way?
Yeah, definitely. So we are going on our sixth year, and it has been a grind the whole time. We're learning something new every year. But when we first started, I mean, our numbers were smaller. I mean, when I first started, I was painting myself. I was an owner operator in the field, doing my estimates in the evening time. And then it slowly growed into adding just a helper, Very small numbers. We're talking 150,000, 200,000 a year, and that's how it was for the first couple of years. And a lot of these things that were implemented is the systems, marketing, things like that really helps us jump that growth.
Yeah, the early grind days, I don't miss those at all. And it's the natural part of progressing in a business if you're not acquiring, right? So let's talk about some of those challenges because I know anybody listening in can likely relate to what that feels like. What were some of the early grind challenges that you guys ran into and that you guys might still be running into today?
Trying to wear all the hats. It's as an owner, you're trying to do everything. And it's also you have to put trust in other people too. Your business is your baby, and it's tough to put trust in people's hands to have credit cards, to drive vehicles, so I think that was kind of one of my big things in the beginning. I was a little scared to give trust into too many people. So I was wearing too many hats in the business and I was just overwhelming myself and it was really negatively impacting us.
How did you hire your first team member? Was that a good hire? And what have you changed since then?
What we've changed since then is our systems. Every business to be able to scale, in my opinion, is you need those systems in place. One thing that I actually saw, I think it was on Facebook or something, it says McDonald's, one of the biggest companies in the world, is ran by teenagers. And it's like, how does a company this large, be ran by just a bunch of teenagers? It's because of their systems in place. So that really stuck to me, and that's what the last couple of years have been for us is implementing those systems.
I love that entire concept. So, fun fact: my first job was at McDonald's. I was 14 years old. It was the only company that would hire a 14-year-old at the time. And
Exactly.
yeah, my mom pulled up out front. I had my little visor on. They taught me how to say, do you want fries with that? And my mom like tapped me on the leg. She's like, "Honey, even Bill Gates had to start somewhere."
Yeah,
But look, I mean,
exactly.
it taught me a lot, though. I mean, the fact, to your point, the fact that they can run a multi-billion-dollar company off of teenage labor, uneducated, for the most part, unresponsible labor, is just simply because they have good systems, processes, and an accountability structure that makes sense to them. Um,
100%.
it's so true. So, what does your team look like today? Like, I know you guys have come quite a long way since those early days. So, talk to me about your team structure, how you guys operate, how you hold your team accountable, and then ultimately how you started giving away some of that trust.
Most definitely. So yeah, we run a W-2 based company. So we don't run many subs. We do have a couple sub crews that we'll use when we're extremely overwhelmed with work and we have customers that we need to get in that our guys can't get to. Our team size of painters in the field, we stay around 10 during our summer and season months. And then we do slim down a bit during the winter months, of course. We run a foreman on every job. We break up into three crews. And then on the larger jobs, we all meet back or kind of small up those groups into smaller numbers. But yeah, I started passing off trust. Started off in the labor positions, giving our foreman a credit card, giving them vans, things like that. And once I started seeing that I can trust people, and even once I found out that, hey, even when something goes wrong, we could fix that, we could learn from it, and we could re implement something new.
It's exactly right. Failure is an opportunity to learn. And that's why we like to use that particular language. Because if you tell somebody, hey, you failed, it can take a toll on them. And you really want to make sure you're leading with influence. And you do that by using those opportunities to learn to implement new systems and processes, right? You're plugging a hole. So talk to me about the last time that, let's say, you had an opportunity to learn, because we all do.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so that was actually another piece that I wanted to bring up too, is our SOPs. We just started recently implementing those SOPs, and some of our biggest mistakes that we always learn from is basic mistakes that our painters make in the field. whether it's they spray a basement ceiling, like the open ceiling concept. We spray a basement ceiling, and the cold water pipe, the homeowner runs cold water, and now the paint's dripping off. So we got to make sure that the floors stay covered even after we leave the job. So it's like things like that, and we learned that from having to replace a $10,000 carpet. So it was a costly mistake, but it really pushed us to get those SOPs in place.
Yeah,
And
it's
also,
sorry, get ahead, Zach.
so actually Nick Slavic was actually here in Buffalo last week, and he was doing a presentation. It was a Sherwin-Williams presentation, and I went up, met with him. I've seen him a bunch of times at events, and I wanted to support him, for this here in my hometown. And I remember he was bringing up the SOPs, and I raised my hand and I was like, "Hey, Nick, like we have one of his bedroom SOPs hanging in our shop, so I could show my guys, hey, a bedroom, we're doing that in 4 hours. These are the steps. This is what it takes, and that's kind of like our base start."
Having a foundation to build on is so powerful, and that's what I love about organizations like the PCA is they give you the fundamentals, the foundation to build on, and then they can also talk to you as a multi seven figure company as well. So it really is a community that's ripe for any aspect of where your company's at in this industry today. So for those listening in, if you've not joined the PCA yet, highly recommend considering it. Their expos, their events throughout the year are second to none. So,
Yes.
yeah, with that said, you mentioned like dripping paint from a ceiling. I mean, that is a classic example of something that needs to fail before you even consider it. Like, who would have thought cold water running through a pipeline in the basement is going to make the paint drip onto a $10,000 rug, right? I mean, that is a perfect storm of scenarios that lead to a hole that you need to plug. Now, the important part there is making sure that that hole stays plugged, right? And that's really where you need a good accountability structure. So, talk to me more about your team. You mentioned your W-2 model. How do you delegate who's doing what, who's responsible for what? What is your team structure? The job titles, what does all that look like in your company today?
Yeah, so we have a hierarchy based structure where it starts with me, drops down to a project manager, then a foreman, and then the painters below them. So we make sure that we're going up to the chain of command. If our painters have a question, they're talking to the foreman. If the foreman has a question, they're talking to the project manager. We're making sure that everything is getting directed to the place it needs to go to. And that's why the SOPs are so important, because there is unfortunately, a somewhat high turnover rate in terms of the labor positions. So we do get, unfortunately, we do get new painters that, come and go. And it's like you teach the painters that, hey, you teach them all the things not to do. And then when the new ones come in, you got to keep retraining. Those SOPs help us not have those same problems keep reoccurring.
That's exactly right. And your team size today, based on the fact that you also bring on some subs as needed, how many projects are you guys typically able to take on, let's say on a monthly basis?
Yeah, so we are 50% commercial, 50% residential, in terms of revenue. Obviously, that means we do a ton more residential projects because the amounts are smaller. So we are running between, I'd say, 20 to 30 projects every month, between the smaller ones and our larger ones. Um, so yeah, it does get pretty hectic, you know.
Yeah. So how do you guys keep everything on track? I mean, this business, this industry is seasonal, right? So I mean, especially in Buffalo, where I think you guys get some of the highest percentage of snow on all of the East Coast, right? With that Great Lake snow effect you guys got up there. So how do you guys stay on track during this time of the year that we have coming up here, where you guys are going to be busier than the rest of the entire year combined? And how do you guys manage that during the off season when you have 5 feet of snow on the ground?
Yeah, so that's the thing too, is and we do slim down in the wintertime because of the weather and seasonality. When we are in the winter is when we do most of our commercial projects and our interior projects. And then obviously as we come summertime, that's when we're running interior and exterior. And it really has flowed nicely for us. But we try to make sure that we are scheduling those longer interior projects over the wintertime. Maybe even sometimes incentivizing these companies to start our project in the wintertime.
Yep. So I think you have a really great structure for the project work that you take on. So for instance, I preach up and down, commercial is the answer for stability on the residential side, right? Because buyer intent in the residential market does go up and down throughout the year based on buying conditions, market conditions that are outside of your control. So election years will play a factor, end of quarters, holidays are typically the biggest ones, weather conditions, right? These are all things that are outside of your control that ultimately dictate how interested or how likely it is that your prospects are going to be interested in your services. Commercial is a bit different though, right? So commercial, let's talk about how you got into that, how you continue to grow it, and then ultimately what your experience has been like serving that particular audience.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, I will say we gear obviously all of our marketing towards residential, all of our sales process towards residential. For the commercial side, we started that organically. Basically, if I drive past a site, a job site, and I see a developer sign up, we're calling, leaving a voicemail. Hey, we want to get on your bid list. Things like that. Going on their websites. A lot of the times on their websites, you could just get right on their bid list. We're a member of Construct Connect. That's where it shows all the commercial projects going on locally and in your state. So those types of areas, it's all organic for us. We played around with some small ad budget on the Google side, but really, we just make sure that it's all relationship based and that we are prospecting organically in terms of commercial.
So most of your relationships on the commercial side, are they going to be exponential in nature, meaning you have one GC, one property management company that continues to feed you projects? Or are you finding more of these one-off, think about like a residential job, but on steroids type of projects?
So we see a little bit of both. So I have a couple of GCs in our area that we do 5 to 10 projects a year for them alone. And then we also have the one-offs. I had one yesterday call in um, out of state GCs that are placing bids for local work. They'll probably hire us once, maybe in the future if they do another project locally. But we do see both.
What would you say the biggest difference between residential and commercial is? I know there's different levels of commercial to start with, right? But then also the bidding process is different and the way that you present the sale itself and the estimate, right? So like for instance, on the residential side, you are selling the value of your services and
Yes.
solving their problems. On the commercial side, you're more of a commodity. So how does that work in your industry? What have you found success in on the commercial side?
Yeah. So I will say, just to touch on both, residential side, when you're going to individuals' homes, this is their baby. You know how I mentioned my business is my baby? This is in most cases, their largest asset. So it's very personal to them. So it's a completely different approach. Um, when it's commercial, it's strictly transactional. When it's residential, it's more emotional. That's why we dedicate all of our marketing budget to residential. We're adding sales reps, obviously, because I'm overwhelmed. I do all the sales currently. We're adding sales reps for that purpose, so we could engage with the customer, make them feel comfortable. So we're available to answer their calls, everything that they need to be happy with us.
And then
And
on
I'm
the
sorry, I don't think I technically answered your question on the
no,
commercial
yeah.
side, but
So on the commercial side, talk through a little bit about what that transaction looks like, because I think a lot of guys look at bidding and even just coming up with an estimate on the commercial side where you might have hundreds of like thousands of square feet to quote, right?
right,
And then you're looking
right.
at it being a commodity and you're bidding directly against somebody else that you don't have the same value prop to add to that sale, right? So how do you guys go about bidding commercial projects?
Yes, so 100%. We just wrapped up one a couple months ago. It was 170,000 square feet. It was 108 apartments. I mean, this project was pretty big. And from start to finish, I was expressing to the GC from the start. Hey, because I was like, we will be there for you. We will make sure that we're getting it done in your timelines because that's huge to them. A lot of times timelines are an issue. But the bidding process for us, we go in, we read the plans, we make sure that we take our takeoffs, and then it is a lot more competitive than residential. The margins are smaller, they're larger amounts. It ends up working out that way for us. So we do like commercial a lot. It is, like I said, 50% of our revenue. Um, but yeah, it's a completely different process. It's building that relationship with the developer, the general contractor, on a transactional basis.
Now, when you're bidding commercial, are you typically looking at blueprints or are you out there actually measuring things on site?
So we always start with blueprints, 9 times out of 10. We'll go through those. Sometimes there's stuff missing on the plans, and that's why you can't just, I know, and this might help some people out there as well, because when I first started bidding them, I didn't realize you could ask, questions too. Like, obviously it's obvious, but it's okay to reach out to the GC. Hey, I didn't see this on the plans. What do I do about this? And that's kind of I realized as I go on that that's a little expected, from them, because they're not always gonna have everything on there. And then we will also sometimes do a site visit after we receive the plans and go check things out. And that's where we could even ask more detailed questions.
You brought up a really good point here I want to hammer down on. I think a lot of guys look at commercial and they're intimidated by it. But if
Yes,
you go
yes.
in there with curiosity instead, like do you find that the bids that you're asking questions on and you're actually going out and touching the physical job, that you're more likely to get that bid as a result of the trust that you built up by simply being curious?
100%. 100%. Also, to touch on that even further, uh, it's also good to detail your quote as well. So you have a large scope. Detail that, ask those questions, and they will have a lot more confidence in you than someone who just placed a bid. And it's like you said, it's the intimidation thing. And companies may feel intimidated and that, hey, if I ask a question, it looks like I'm uneducated.
Right.
But that's not the case, you know.
It's so true. So I do want to try to hammer down on commercial a little bit more because I didn't realize that actually made up as the large percentage of your company as it does, which is great. So when you're looking at commercial in general, are there certain types of projects that you prefer to do? Because as I mentioned, there's different levels of commercial. You can do a McDonald's, like a doctor's office. That's kind of like a one-off thing, right? You can do new build, repaint. And then there's also the large scale commercial, which is going to be apartment complexes, stadiums, right?
Right.
So what's the type of commercial project that you've maybe found success in, or those that you prefer to work at?
So I will say we pretty much go for them all. But what I've been starting to realize, and like I said, I learn something new every year, and this is new to us too, is I'm learning that these smaller offices, things like that, have been more profitable for us than opposed to large apartment complexes. The large apartment complexes, they're a lot more denser in terms of walls, doors, things like that. So in 170,000 square feet, you're painting a lot more doors than a 170,000 square foot office building. So we do have better margins in those types of areas. So it's actually new to us, but I think we're leaning more towards those.
And what's your average job size on the commercial side?
I would say 80,000. We do have the large ones, like I mentioned before. We do a lot of 40 to $100,000 jobs too.
And what do the profit margins look like on that compared to something like a residential project?
Yeah, so they're a lot slimmer, but the total revenue is higher, so five,
Small, smaller piece of
five
a bigger pie, right?
right, right. So 5 to 10 commercial projects a year makes up half of our revenue that like 100 to 200 residential projects are doing, you know.
Yeah.
They're both necessities to us though,
Mhm.
and we value both equally.
Love it. So let's talk about your tech stack. Everybody in this industry comes to us with primarily one question, and that is, what technology do you recommend for us to run our company? And we have data behind what our clients currently use today, those doing about 500K to 8 million on the residential side. And it's going to differ on the commercial side, right? Because like the technology you use over there might be slightly different, especially the way you have, let's say, the communication cadence set up as well. So what kind of technology do you use in your company, both on the residential and the commercial side?
Yeah, so we use Drip Jobs. That's our CRM. Obviously, we use basic accounting services like QuickBooks. We do run our payroll through Square. What else is on our tech side? We have subscriptions through Construct Connect and local places for finding projects. We use Homebase for time clock and scheduling. What else do we use? Oh, we use Company Cam. Company Cam is huge. We just implemented that to be probably 6 months ago, and it's been huge. It links directly with Drip Jobs, and it's a nice transition piece from our sales side to our boots on the ground side, where they could see those photos that the sales reps took and use them for the project, and also use them for our customers to see our progress.
Love Company Cam for so many reasons. I think it's a great tech stack. So on Drip Jobs, just to clarify, if you have a commercial lead or a commercial bid request come through, does that go into Drip Jobs, or do you have a different system or tech stack for that?
So we do put them through Drip Jobs. We
Okay.
put our proposals right in Drip Jobs. Yes.
So do you have the same drips or the same follow-up sequence set up for both residential and commercial prospects?
No. So we turn our drips off for commercial projects, and
There
we
you go.
follow up organically. Commercial, yeah, yeah. I see. I could see you already know.
Yeah.
The GCs, they don't want the automated follow ups that our residential customers are getting.
Yeah.
So we turn them off.
Love that process. Yeah. Everybody does that slightly different. We have some guys that will set up their own drip sequence specifically for commercial.
Right,
And
right, right.
so it's super interesting to hear how you guys go about defining all of that. So let's shift over to residential now. What's your average job size look like? Where's most of your business coming from? How do you feel like that is going to scale in your company as you guys continue to grow? Because I know you guys have some pretty aggressive growth goals this year as well.
Yeah, definitely. So our average job size is 6,000, and that's a mix between interior and exterior. Um, I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Actually, let's pause there. So average job size 6,000. The industry average is around 5,000. So you're above industry average. Would you say that is because of the market you're serving or your sales process and being able to add the value to the sale to justify the above market price?
100% the sales process, 100% what we're offering. We've played with, and thanks to base coat, we've played around with our target areas and things like that, and adding that value, having those reviews, showing that we're superior product is what lands us those higher project values.
It's fascinating because we have so many guys that come in, their average job size is around 3,500. And if you really want to define a good marketing to sales handoff, it is about having a good sales process to justify your marketing investment. Because when you start
Yes.
opening up the doors, the margins, right, to support a higher average job size, you can produce less and earn the same, right? And that also allows you to spend more on marketing, which is going to allow you to do less in your company and still have the freedom to go enjoy life, which is what we're ultimately all in this game for to begin with. So talk to me about your sales process. How do you go about adding value to justify above market price for a market that may not otherwise go about supporting that?
So yeah, I was just actually going to give a nice little tidbit for anyone listening. And we've been kind of playing around with this for a while, but I've just recently realized that it does help us a lot in terms of adding value to our company from what the customer sees. I tell them when I'm giving them my sales pitch, I tell them, hey, we have a dedicated and this is everyone who owns a painting business that uses Sherwin Williams. We just simply tell them, hey, we have a dedicated a Sherwin-Williams sales rep that's dedicated to our company, that will come out if there's any issues that we have questions about or that you have questions about. And that's huge to them. It makes you look superior to other companies that aren't mentioning it that have the same access.
Yeah. So this is all right. I love the fact that you brought this up. And this is what I love to communicate during sales is whatever you say to your customer that your competition is not, that is the gap. Right. So it goes the other way around. If your competition is telling your prospects that, hey, we have a 2-year guaranteed warranty on labor and material or whatever, right? And you offer the same thing, but they're speaking those words to the prospect and you're writing it in an estimate buried in the fine print somewhere, they're going to probably go with the person who's telling them that. So anytime you have an opportunity to add value, even if you feel like that value is not worth saying or it's generic and it should be expected, tell them anyways, right? It's about communicating that gap.
Another one too that a lot of people probably don't mention is even if you have an in-house warranty, still bring up the manufacturer's warranty on the paint. Say, hey, yeah, we have a 5-year in-house warranty, and we also have a lifetime or 10, 20-year manufacturer's warranty on the material and product itself.
I love it. Tanner Molon always says you want to build up an army of yeses, right? And going through that list and asking them questions along the way is even a better way to refine that and just reaffirm it. So saying, hey, we have a 5-year manufacturer warranty on the paint. Does that make sense to you? Any questions regarding that? Yeah, no, that sounds good, right? Like having them go through and recognize everything that you're offering them and overwhelm them with value, right? Like don't just tell them the things that you think they need to hear, because the things that they want to hear are generally more important than the things that they need.
Right.
Love that. So let's talk through your sales process a little bit more. How do you feel like you differentiate yourself other than the gap? So filling the gap of what you're saying and what your competition's not saying. Is there any unique selling points that you guys like to emphasize about your company that helps you sell on the residential side?
I will say one of our bigger ones isn't even something that we verbally say. It's our tech stack. Our drip jobs, right when we walk in the door, our customer is praising our system. They love the customer portal. They love the texting. They love the follow-ups. They love, the booking request forms. When we get a call, I just say, hey, if they're looking for an estimate, we send them our booking form. They fill out the contact information with 2 dates that works best for them. And then we schedule them. They get the notification right then and there with the text saying, hey, you've been scheduled for this. It looks extremely professional compared to the competition, and that's huge. Another thing is really we come in the gate, we sell our value. It's just like you said, what Tanner mentioned. It's whatever we can get yeses for, and it's not just what we can get, it's what we really do. We tell our customers, hey, we are huge on customer service. This is why we have this many 5-star reviews. This is why, we're a highly sought out company, because this is really what we do.
You mentioned a good point here, which is just doing the bare minimum, right? This industry, I think a lot of guys try to overcomplicate it. And I want to be clear, it's very easy to make things complicated. It's very difficult to make things simple. So when you make your customer journey simple and have a good communication process where you arrive on time, you're communicating throughout the project proactively is the key here, right? You're not reacting, answering questions. It goes a long way. Like, for instance, we actually have a saying in our company here: if the client is asking for an update, we are failing, right? So the goal is to always keep them informed. So the only answer to a text message is thanks for the update, right? Like it's a stupid, simple concept that's actually very difficult to implement. And to your point, that's why I like platforms like Drip Jobs. It's the one platform that I can stand behind and put my name behind, because it does that so well and they make it plug and play. You don't have a big learning curve to set everything up. You buy into it. Everything's pre-typed out. You can customize it. They have a training portal, and then you're off to the races.
Yes. I will say, anyone who doesn't have Drip Jobs that is thinking about using it, it's obviously it's amazing. We've used it ever since we've implemented it. But one thing I will say, make sure you get on that call, that onboarding call, because you will learn so much stuff about the program that you might not be using that just is tenfold compared to what you were currently using on the system. But yeah, just to further touch, there's only a couple things that are huge on a customer saying yes to your proposal. It's being on time, answering their call, keeping them updated without them asking, and expressing why you have more value than your competitor. If you touch on all those points, it's a given.
Do you ever get price objections? And if so, how do you handle those?
So price objections, we handle them with, we tell them where our value comes from. We show them why we may be this price. We show them why, and we show them our process where we come up with our number. We say, hey, we try to give our best price as possible. We definitely give our best price as possible. But in order for us to give the quality that we offer, this is what it costs us. And we do offer occasional, 5 or 10% discounts as well. If we could tell it's a valuable customer that really likes us, uh, maybe we look at the number and we think we can move on it. We'll do something simple like that, or
Love it.
even I was gonna say, or even just like a cash price.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, I think if you need to incentivize it, reserve it, right? But keep that in your back pocket
Right.
when needed. I think incentives are so important. So talk to me about, where do you acquire most of your residential business from? I know you're investing in marketing on our end. I presume you're doing some offsite stuff as well. How does that look for you today?
So 95% of our budget is through base coat marketing. And obviously, and I do want to say this, base coat, Austin, none of them, asked me to say any of this. It's just my honest opinion. Base coat has done tremendous things for us. And I just wish I would have done it sooner. If I wouldn't have won that competition, I might not have done it sooner. It's people get scared of the cost of marketing. Now after doing it for as long as I have been, I would never not run marketing for any of my businesses or my painting business. It is a crucial part of our business and how we operate. Um, but yeah, so other than that, we do simple things like golf courses, magazines, home living magazines, just very simple things. We might get one or two, customers from, but it's just brand awareness.
So good. So where did you guys start off? Take us back in time. What that would have been. So 24 was last year. Take us back to 2023, before you joined up with us. Where were you guys at revenue wise, team size? What did your company look like then? How did last year go? And then what are your goals looking like for this year?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the numbers are just so different. We're talking about before base coat was three guys under me. I was I was foreman. I was doing estimates. I was doing all of that. I always had the goal to move forward. I've looked into marketing. I've looked into scaling. I've scaling was always first on my agenda, but scaling was impossible without the marketing. It just was. So once we got that marketing running, that's when I really got my first jump start to, hey, now's the time to scale. So we went from doing 300,000 with me and a couple guys to 800,000 year revenue, on track to do 1.5 this year.
Nice.
So it's it's a huge game changer, with the marketing, 100%. And it's always important to make sure you're using the right company too. You got to make sure that the company is utilizing your resources, because obviously it's a decent amount of money you're spending. So you want to make sure that you're with the right guys too.
Well, I appreciate this unsolicited testimonial, Zach. That's very, very much appreciated. So, and look, ultimately, man, I always say the same thing. We are in the business to help you succeed. So it sounds like we're succeeding in that regard. So I'm glad to hear that. talk to me about where you want to take this thing. So you're looking to more or less double your company this year. Let's say you hit that 1.5 goal. Heading into
Mhm.
2026 for next year, where do you want to be in the next year, 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah, so realistically, um, the goal to hit that 1.5 this year is with us onboarding that sales rep that I mentioned. We were blessed in the fact that we were able to expand into a larger office where we have bunch of offices. It's huge. It's beautiful. We love it. Very blessed. So we're going to be adding a sales rep this year, some admin staff. That should take us to our number of 1.5, and then after that, our goal is add another sales rep, add another PM, a couple more painters, and hopefully be at 2.5. All in all, I'm trying to get up as obviously as high as I can, uh, but in a safe rate that's not gonna overwhelm us or cause any issues that I might not foresee.
What do you think was the biggest mindset shift for you going from a couple guys at 300K a year to considering taking a company to multiple seven figures? Because that does take a mindset shift. I like to say business is 90% mindset, 10% skill set. So what was that
100%.
mindset shift for you? What did that look like to get you off the brush, off the managing projects and into
Yes.
the more business owner role?
It sounds very basic, but it's not. It's actually pretty, it's not the easiest task, but it really is those simple organizational skills and just like now I get up at 5:40 in the morning. Like it's things like that. It's adding those couple extra hours to your day. It's really putting that grind, that effort, focusing your attention to the details of your company and organizing and doing whatever you can to make that process smoother.
I could not relate to that more. I always like to say how you operate your 5 to 9 is how you tackle your 9 to 5, right? It is that those morning hours that I feel like a lot of guys just sleep in because it's easy, right? It's easy just to turn off that
Right.
alarm clock or to stay up late and watch Netflix. It's hard to go to bed by 8 o'clock on a weeknight. It's harder to go to bed at 8 o'clock on a weekend when you could be out playing, knowing that it's going to make
Yes.
Monday morning a lot easier to roll into, right? It's
Right.
the sacrifices, the opportunity cost that you give up by playing. And I think Alex Ramosi always says it best. I mean, choose your hard. You can either do it now and make your life easy now and have a hard life later, or have a hard life now and make an easy life for the rest of your life, right?
I literally just said that exact same statement to my wife last night. Because it's like, yeah, I know. Because it's like I come here at 5:45 in the morning, and then I come home at 7 p.m. And it's like you do have to have a balance too. I
Yes.
mean, you have to put your family first as well. But you have to put in those extra hours for your business, or else you're just gonna stay stagnant.
Absolutely. Because again, most people, all right, so consider this like you're either working in the business or you're working on the business. You're going to be working in the business 9 to 5. So, where do you have time to actually grow the business? It is in those gap hours on either side of that. And
100%.
it's a burden. Yes, it sucks working 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've been there. I know what that's like. How do you find that balance, especially with the fact that you have a family?
Yeah. So yeah, and I have a 7 month at home too.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah. So it's not easy. I mean, I do have my birthday coming up in a couple days, so my wife and we are going out to a nice restaurant tonight. And we do a little bit of travel here and there, where we'll get out of the area, whether it's a weekend trip or a week trip in Florida, whatever it is. We make time for trips. We make time for each other. We make time for our faith. We make time for our kids, and that's all I have time for outside of work. So I make sure I'm dedicating my time outside of work to the things that matter to me, my family, my wife, my faith, etc., and not giving into my personal things that I would want to do, or that are easy to do. So it's work on both sides, but it's the difference of scaling, succeeding. It's the difference of hitting that 1.5, hitting that 2, you know, those goals for you.
Man, it's so relatable. I mean, there's been a time in my life where I would work 12-hour days, show up to dinner, my wife would have a conversation, and I was not present. She had a conversation with me. I know she said words that came out of her mouth, and then she'd ask me a question at the end of that statement, and I wouldn't know how to respond. I'd say, "What?" And it's having that balance of being able to be dedicated and focused without the burnout and leaving that energy reserve for your family at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, whenever you choose to do that. But just making sure you have energy for the things that are most important in life and identifying and prioritizing where business actually falls on the importance of things in your life, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and our partners, our partners in our life and our family, they're in it with us. I mean, those long nights we're in the office, it affects them as well. So, when those wins are that much better, I know, but it's also about making sure you're catching that and redirecting if you have to.
I think the phrase "enjoy the journey" is overused. I like to say that we're writing a story. The journey has an end, right? And yeah, sure, we're all going to die. Nobody's getting out of this game alive. But when we look at the story that we're writing for ourselves, like, do we want it to be an adventure? Do we want it to be a stressful grind, or is it going to be something fun? Like, it's your goal, it's your opportunity to write whatever story you want. You're not being forced to do 12, 15-hour days. You choose to because you have a goal in mind, and that gives you purpose, right? And I think a lot of us just get lost in the weeds of the grind mentality, especially with like all of the Instagram influencers out there in the business world. Like, if I look at those that I follow, Alex Hormozy, Dan Martell, they have this whole concept of grind at all costs. Like, fuck your feelings, as Leah Hormozy always says. It is very much about finding that balance, though, because you can do that for a time, but eventually that burnout, even at the best case scenario that you're operating at the top 1%, they still have burnout too,
Right, right. And I will say, I think I saw you post, I don't know how recent it was, but you did like a random spontaneous New York City trip with your family,
Yes.
and that really resonated with me. It's like, it's always good to get those things in with your family, it's huge.
So important. That was one of my, we created some core memories on that trip. We surprised the kids by saying that they were dropping me off at the airport for a business trip and opened up the trunk and had all their luggage already packed away. They were totally caught off guard. They thought they were going to school that day. So yeah, find the excitement in life, the surprises in life, and leverage that just like you do in business. It's so damn important. Love this. So Zach, I always ask our guests on this podcast for a greatest insight. Like, if you can go back in time and talk to the younger version of you as a business owner, or if there's anything else that you wish you could scream from the rooftops for anybody else in this industry running a business today to help them succeed in life or in their business, what would that be?
Biggest thing for me would be implement those systems. If I would have done those sooner, I would have gotten here sooner. If I would have implemented those small little fine-tuned things, because everyone who's in business now, they have that spirit. They wanted to start business. They want to be an entrepreneur, so they already have that. Now you just need to fine-tune that to get even further.
Plugging holes, as I like to call them. Like, you got a hole, you plug it, you never have to plug that hole again. Training is just as important as the processes as well. I like to say, before you hire anybody, there needs to be a job description. They need to know what you're holding them accountable to. They need a training program.
Yes. Details.
Yes.
Details.
It's the boring part of running a company, right?
Exactly.
So important, though. Zach, thank you again for taking the time out of your day. Happy early birthday. Go enjoy that dinner with your wife tonight, and we'll be in touch soon, brother.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Austin.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on that episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat as much as I did. Now, listen, if you guys are hungry for more conversations like this, go swing by our website. It's basecoatmarketing.com/podcast. And finally, we are very open to feedback. So if we haven't covered a topic or there's someone you want us to chat with, please let us know. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next conversation for painters.